Hello, and welcome to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Hello, Millennials, and thank you for listening to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I am on the road, and I would love for you to come to a show starting this Friday, April 17th. I am on panel once again for Ask a Fuckboy at the Lab at Zanies. That's part of the Nashville Comedy Festival. First time doing that this Friday, April 17th. Then on Saturday, April 18th, I'll be heading up to Louisville to feature for Tyler Jackson at Planet of the Tapes. That's 2 shows this Saturday night. Then Sunday, I will be back in Nashville for the one and only comedy night at Rosemary and Beauty Queen in East Nashville. That is a free show this Sunday, 8 p.m., April 19th. I hope to see you there. Then on Monday, I'm heading up to Chicago for the first time in almost a decade. I'll be starting it off at Comedy Bar on Monday, April 20th. Then on Tuesday, April 21st, I'll be featuring for my good friend and friend of the podcast, Adam Mamawala, at Zanies. That's right, I'm featuring for Adam. He's headlining Zanies. It's going to be a great show. That's Tuesday, April 21st. Then Wednesday, I'll be at Blind Wolf Comedy Club, also in Chicago. Then Thursday, I'm heading up to Minneapolis to headline at the Comedy Corner Underground. That's Thursday, April 23rd. I'll have Spencer Bland with me. It's going to be a blast. Then on Friday and Saturday, I'm sticking around at Comedy Corner Underground, and I will be featuring for Adam Caton Holland. I've wanted to work with him for a while now, so I'm really excited about that. Then Sunday, I'll be back at Chicago for a showcase, which will be listed on my Linktree. And then I get back to Nashville. I get to relax for a day until April 29th, when I'm bringing Stone Cold Sober to the Lab at Zanies. Make sure you grab your tickets then. Wednesday, April 29th, Stone Cold Sober at the Lab at Zanies. Then the next month, May 8th to May 9th, I will be headlining at West River Comedy Club in Rapid City. And then the following week, I head to New York City, and I'll be there May 13th to May 16th. Check my Linktree again for all the dates and times and shows I'm doing. And then May 17th, I am so excited to be making my headlining debut. Well, headlining debut with an asterisk at Empire Comedy Club in Portland, Maine. I technically headlined there in 2018. It was a different club then, it was a different venue then, and it was a different time then. But this time, I'm back, I'm the headliner, it's all about me. Sunday, May 17th at Empire Comedy Club. Hope to see you there. Again, this was a really long one. Whatever. Welcome back to Chapter 11 of Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. We're still in Portland. I'm back in Nashville. I'm personally back in Nashville. I got back from Dallas around 9 o'clock on Monday, and I went straight to running my open mic with my friend Corey Perry every Monday at Rosemary and Beauty Queen. And boy, what a treat of a mic that one was. Actually, it was really fun. It really was. Then I got back to my apartment, found out my cat had broken my TV. I'm not sure if it was Davy or Tinkerbell. I'm thinking it was Tinkerbell. Davy's not that reckless. Who knows how that happened, but it did. And then I got about an hour into driving for Uber yesterday before someone just ran into the street. And I had these 2 passengers from Britain, England, across the pond, and I just yelled out, "Fucking Christ," and didn't say anything else, didn't even acknowledge that I did it. And I was like, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. The rest of the day was actually fine, but, you know, Nashville is not an easy pill to swallow, because every time you come back, it's a little different, and I think it's a little worse. I think Nashville's becoming a city that's very fun to visit and terrible to live in. But also, I'm standing in Shelby Park in a beautiful little grove right now, recording with you. So I think every city you can find your little slices of happiness and peace. And I just have to remember to go find mine here in Music City. But to catch you back up on the story, we're still in Portland. I've just gotten there. It's sort of a little, I kind of blurred some things together because I forgot that I didn't have housing Monday night, so I slept in my car, so that made Tuesday a little bit confusing to me. And I'm only there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, doing shows. First show was Monday. I didn't have a show Tuesday, and then I have 4 shows between Wednesday and Thursday. And my brain kind of mixed it all together. But to catch you up, I am in a camper, like a small camper, like not even a silver bullet. It's not even as big as I guess it is a silver bullet, but like an old silver bullet. And this is bringing up a lot of the weird isolation that I did to myself earlier in the trip in Idaho, and also just previously in my life when I was living on a houseboat in New York, which very similar vibes except for it's reversed. On the houseboat, I would have really bad anxiety at night when I got back, and then be fine in the morning because it was like nice and calm. I made coffee, I could relax, I could watch planes coming over. It was cool. This was the opposite, where at night I felt fantastic. Shows felt good. Exploring Portland felt good. They had this small VHS TV that you could grab off their porch and bring it into the trailer, and I watched Liar Liar, and genuinely had a wonderful evening. But then I'd wake up in the morning, and the other things that were happening, on top of just the fact that I'm just drinking too much at this point, I've lost the plot. I'm ripping shots and drinking beer, and I might not be drinking as much to a point that I'm blacking out, anything like that. But just my body is like, dude, you're not putting anything healthy in. You're barely eating. I'm finding like a nice spot for lunch every day, and then I'm kind of just eating ramen noodles at night. And it's just adding up. So, and then the stress is just compounding, because some things that are happening that had nothing to do with, there were things that I couldn't really control, or at least I didn't think I could control. One of the biggest checks that I was banking on from one of the previous clubs, they just had a whole system failure trying to get people paid. And I've been waiting on this check, and it just I was checking with the other comics that were on that show. It just wasn't, there was just they were switching over their payment system, and it just wasn't working. So I just was waiting on a pretty substantial amount of money to get me through that week. That didn't happen. Another thing that was happening that week is a lot of my bills and loans were all hitting at the same time, and I didn't know that I could delay those loans for a month or push them. So I'm just trying to figure out how to pay for them. I'm kind of running up a tab with my parents and just being like, hey, I just need this to, and I'm not like going out, and like I said, like I'm not going out and just partying. I'm very good at finding free alcohol. When I'm at a show, there's a lot of free alcohol. You usually make friends with the bartender. They'll comp you a shot. You find alcohol. Also, the camper van I'm in has some free alcohol, has some beer. So it's not like I'm just running out and being like, all right, well, there's $100. Let me go spend it at the bar. I'm using like a little bit for lunch, and then I'm like using the rest of it to cover whatever loan this is or pay whatever bill it is. And it's just, everything's just getting to be too much. And then also just the darkness of heavily drinking is starting to slip in. Because coming back into drinking this time around, I took 153 days off, drank for a couple days, decided maybe this wasn't for me, took a few weeks off, and then just stress and genuinely just wanting to drink again. I started drinking right before the tour. I start drinking as the tour starts in Portland, Maine. And I'm just at a point where it's been about a month now. I've been drinking almost every single day. I'm not taking a lot of breaks. I'm not going to the gym because I don't really have access to it. I'm not doing my walks like I normally do. And everything is just sort of floating inside of me, and it's getting dark. And the isolation just makes you feel a little, like you're trapped in it, And honestly, once I would get out of the trailer, I would feel a lot better. And, that was sort of the issue, is just when your anxiety is that bad, you don't take the steps necessary to take care of yourself. And that's sort of where I'm at this point. But Tuesday night was really nice. Like, it was kind of a reset day. I watched these videos. It was very nostalgic. It was fun. I'm watching, one of my heroes, Jim Carrey, in his prime, with Liar Liar. Made myself a little food, and yeah. So then I wake up Wednesday morning. I got I have one show scheduled that night, and then my friend Megan Otto, who I've mentioned before, she got me on to a show at Al's Den, which was great because that was a show I wanted to do, and it was a venue that I wanted to do. And so I would do Al's Den, and then I would do a show called Doe. Another fun thing about Doe that night is my friend Holly from LA was going to be there. She was bringing some friends. And Holly and I used to work at the Oscars together and a lot of other live shows. So again, it's like kind of, as dark as some of the mornings are, there are these really fun evenings, and people from my past keep showing up as this trip is going. And there's a lot of positivity floating around, but it's just like as the yin and yang of positive and negative are kind of battling it out in my mind, there's moments where the negativity wins and there's moments where the positivity wins. And again, a lot of that is just influence from alcohol. And I just finished up a month-long tour on the road. And, luckily I didn't even have a moment where I wanted to drink or anything like that. I didn't have a moment of weakness or anything. And this was a very stressful month. Money was extremely tight. But because I wasn't drinking, not even because of like the money side of it, I mean like having a clear mind and knowing how to navigate, all right, well, I got to get from A to B, money's tight, let me look at this and see when's this check come in, when's this Venmo come in from that show, what can I cut out today, what can I move around, the clarity was there so I could get through this month. And also I set up my housing, I set up any side quests, if you want to call them that, before I got out on the road. So if the money on the road was fluctuating, luckily there was already these things in place that I've already paid for. It was just a much more responsible tour. This was not that at this time. This was kind of flying the seat of my pants. The original tour was supposed to be like a kind of a comeback, and in a way it was. Long term, it really was a comeback tour for me. But in the moment, it does not feel like that. Things are getting extremely dark, and I'm just kind of thinking, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it back home ever. I do. Obviously, I do. But, that's just where I'm at. I'm just feeling very alone. So I don't do too much during the day. I go to the same bar that I went to the night before because it's got the Anthony Bourdain photo. It's got a great happy hour deal that starts very early. And you can get a really good lunch for very cheap. And eventually I will figure out what that restaurant was so I can shout them out because it kind of got me through the next couple days. And, Megan, very last minute, got me on this show at Al's Den. And it was also just great catching up with her again. Just to reiterate how we met was I was running probably one of the worst bar shows in Nashville, which says something because we have some pretty tough bar shows in this city. And they paid me well, though. So that's why I kept doing it. But she hits me up last minute. Brad Sativa forwarded her to me. She brings a bunch of friends. It was one of the only good shows we had. But we just stayed in touch, and she was like, hey, if you ever come to Portland, let me know. And then Megan basically set up this whole week for me. And that is the best part about the road is like, all ships rise. And if you can collaborate and help each other and you stay around positive people and funny people, then it makes it all kind of worth it. So Megan hits me up that day, and she's like, hey, I got you on this show last minute if you want to come do it. And I'm like, absolutely. And it was cool. And Al's Den seems to be a kind of established room in Portland. There's a lot. It's a very different scene from Nashville. Like, they have multiple bar shows a night, but they're not just like ambush shows where someone, some tourist walks in, they're like, why is there no music playing? They're like legitimate, rooms set up for comedy. I mean, the room that I did on Monday night, Laugh Basement, right now on Instagram, Kyle Kinane is clipping out his set in the same room. I mean, they're good enough that people of his caliber are willing to go, and that's what I don't think is really. I don't think that concept is really taking off here in Nashville. Is like we're an entertainment city, and there is the potential to have these bar shows in these rooms set up so that the bigger comics that do live here, and there's not that many, and like I'm not expecting Bargatze to go to a bar show. Like why, that's just a different. I don't know. I think there's potential here in Nashville, and I just don't think it's being reached. And when you go to a place like Portland and you just see all these incredible shows, you think, well, why can't we do that? The city's not that much bigger. Maybe it is more established as a comedy town, and it's not competing with Music City, that's for sure. But the resources are the same, so I think it could happen. Anyway, I'm excited about the show. I'm excited to add an extra show. And I go and I do Al's Den, and it's fine. It was more so fun just to get to know the other comics. The audience was a little tight, So I didn't like love my set, but I was happy to run a set. And then I hopped over to Doe, and this place is packed. The energy's electric. And there was a bit of a miscommunication. I thought that I was going to be doing a bit longer set, but, when you book these things, sometimes you have multiple producers, you're traveling, you don't follow up in time, things get lost in the mix, and I ended up doing like 7 minutes. But just crush those 7 minutes. I mean, a little bit is coming from frustration, not at the venue, or the producers of the show or anything, just the frustration of like, where, I'm in Portland, money is tight as hell. But the thing is, once I get to these shows, I don't feel that stress and anxiety anymore, because then I'm reminded why I'm out there, why I'm doing this, and it's just so hard to take yourself outside of yourself sometimes and just be like, hey, you're doing the thing. You're here to do the thing, And that's the worst part about money, is it always corrupts and ruins these beautiful moments. Like I had a moment in Houston this weekend where I was like getting to the show, and like, I got paid properly, and I just was waiting for that payment to come in. But I was like, man, if you just take money out of this equation, it's just been such a great trip. And it just sucks that it always comes back to that. And I understand it's just how the system is, it's how life is, it's how we choose to spend our one life on earth, is just running around trying to get another dollar so we can feed ourselves or feed our family, or, make someone laugh at a dick joke in a club in Houston. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. But the show, like, it goes great. Just crush that set. The producers are like, and the fun part about that is they kind of look at you differently, right? They're kind of like, oh, I didn't recognize your game. My fault. And it was cool. And my friend, like I said, my friend Holly was there. She brought some friends. And I get off stage, and I have full intention of going and hanging out with her friends and everything. And I just hit my wall. I mean, again, like, I'm not taking care of myself. I wouldn't even say I was like drunk at that point. I mean, I've been drinking, but it wasn't like I gotta get out of here. I'm not doing well. It's just the anxiety's catching up and all this other stuff. So I couldn't even go enjoy the evening afterwards. So finish the set, kind of apologize, Holly, like, yeah, I'm so tired, like, I'm just going back. And I go back, and I genuinely just go to sleep. And I wake up the next day, and I feel like I felt fine going to sleep. I made myself a little food, but I just feel like genuinely sick. I start dry heaving, and I'm like, well, this isn't a great feeling. And this will come back later. And I'm glad the moment happened, because it was a sign of like my body genuinely telling me like, hey, we got to stop soon. Like, you have to stop soon. But the alcoholic in me is like, well, I'm not stopping today. So now it's Thursday. It's my last night in Portland. That night I have Preach, and I have Chill and Phil. Chill and Phil's at a brewery, and Preach, it was a show I had heard of before I even planned to go to Portland. And so I was really excited to do this. They have me closing it out. I'm getting like 15, 20 minutes, I think. And I'm genuinely excited for it. But I'm waking up and I'm just like dry heaving. And I'm drinking water and it's just not going away. And so I just was like, I think I'm going to have to be a full-time drunk right now. And so I grab like a Miller High Life, something super light as you can possibly get. And I drink it, and I feel fine after that. And I'm, and the alarms are going off in my head, but, I'm not the pilot. That's the scary part about a lot of this, is like, I'm kind of the co-pilot, and maybe I'm not even that. I might even just be the pilot trying to get to the next destination. So he's just hopping a ride with this plane and just going wherever he's trying to go, because he's just trying to get there. And that's sort of what my drinking can do, where I'm there, but I'm not in control. And so I do that, and I think I actually do get a little work done. But then I make my way back to that same bar or restaurant. I'm hanging out there, and I think I keep going there because I'm waiting to have like just a chance run-in with somebody, with a stranger, and just like kind of have this connection that I've been having so far on this trip. Where, in Westport, I meet the artists, the two artists, the bartender and the other patron, and then we end up meeting the guy from Deadliest Catch. these previous run-ins that I've been having, right? And I haven't had that in Portland, and I haven't had this at that bar. I'm just going because I have my patron saint Anthony Bourdain watching over me, and I can get a nourishing meal and also cheap alcohol. So I go back. That doesn't happen again. I go back to the camper. Oh, and also I was supposed to get coffee with Holly that morning, and this is how like sick I'm starting to feel. Is I'm like, coffee just sounds like a nightmare to me, you know. And so I end up bailing, and I feel bad. But we've talked since. Things are fine. And this is someone who's been very supportive of me on the road, and I felt bad, but that's what happens, you know. The priority right now is drinking. It's not anything else. So, I get back and I get ready for the show, and I go to the first show, and this ended up being a bit of a trend towards the back half of the trip. The producer was very sick and didn't promote the show the way they normally do, so it was just a really light show, and it's kind of a big brewery. So we were struggling. We were struggling a bit at the show, but whatever, I mean, that's just the game. Like, you struggle one week, you crush it the next. That's just what happens. So we kind of struggle or whatever, and then I got to hustle my way over to preach because I didn't really get my timing right. So I get all the way over there. Super cool venue. There's like this upstairs kind of cool bar, and then they're down in the basement. I catch like the last two comics before me, and I walk in, and the bartender is like, "Oh, you're closing out, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yep, there's your drink." And they did the whole menu. They styled all these menus around the comics, and so I had a whiskey drink specially made just for me, named after me. And this is kind of the hysterical part of what alcoholism can do. I was still strictly not drinking whiskey at this time. I was like, nope, because once I go down the route of whiskey, I lose control, blah, blah, blah. I've already lost control, but I'm still like, no, but if I don't drink whiskey, I'm still okay. And so I was like, this is amazing. Can you make it with tequila? And he was like, it's going to be terrible, but, I can try, and so he does. It is very bad with tequila. I honestly don't remember if I ended up just trying it to try it. But I did really appreciate that, and it just makes you feel, it's the little things. It's like, we're not going to get paid super well. It's a bar show. It's not. It most likely isn't going to make or break your career, but there's these little touches you can add that just make you feel special. And having the bartenders take the time out of their week to make these cocktails for us, that was pretty cool. And I get to do my set, and yeah, it was great. It was really fun. It wasn't like, it wasn't like the night before where I just absolutely murdered. But I had a good set. I was happy with it. And overall, I was like, the shows all went the way I wanted them to go. They were good. I networked. I had a good set. And I was happy about all that. Show kind of clears out. I'm not quite ready to go back to the trailer. And I go upstairs to the upstairs bar. I think they handed me $20 cash, and they Venmo'd me more later. But I got this $20 cash. Instead of just keeping it, it's just burning a hole in my pocket. And the bartender upstairs was like, "Yeah, you were on the show downstairs, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was." He was like, "Oh, okay, well, sit down and have a drink, and I'll spot you because I know that they just gave you $20." And I was like, "Oh, great." Finally, I find that connection I was searching for all day, or the last couple of days, of just like that meaningfulness of just a stranger and having a connection and talking to them and getting to know them and just sort of hearing the troubles in their life, because it makes you realize, oh, we're all going through something. And you're not alone, you're allowed to talk to other people, and you're allowed to reach out, and you're allowed to ask for help. I'm not asking for help at this point in the way that I should be asking for help. And I'm also doing a very good job of hiding my drinking from my parents as well. That was something that was happening. Like, my siblings know I'm drinking. I was making a lot of phone calls as well as I'm driving around, and I'm telling friends, and I can hear the concern in their voice of just like, well, you do what you want to do, but I have this aunt, or I have this uncle, or I have this, cousin, or whatever it is, someone in their life that they've seen them go through this, and it's not, they know how this goes, and eventually I will know how this goes. I will learn how this goes, but I'm not there yet, and it made me feel better being honest about it, and I wish I'd been honest with my parents, but I just wasn't, I just wasn't. Eventually I would, and we'll get to that when we get to that, That's a couple months later and towards the end of the story. So I had this great connection, this great conversation with this guy, and comes to my drink, and I go back to the trailer, and I wanted to watch another VHS tape because I just thought it was so cool, but I didn't want to take the extra step of like bringing this. You have to literally go carry the TV from their porch into the trailer, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I just hang out, probably look at TikTok or whatever, and I go to sleep. And the next day I have to drive to Bend. Now, I do feel a huge wave of relief knowing that I'm about to go to Bend, because Bend is supposed to be a headliner show. I'm checking the numbers. It looks like this is going to sell well. I haven't heard from the venue all week, which I thought was a bit weird. But this was a headliner show that was supposed to put some money in my pocket. I had enough money to get to Bend. And I was just going to camp again because, again, once you get out west, a lot of these places you can just camp. You know, you can just stop in for the night and you're good. And I'm genuinely excited about this show. So because I'm about to make money, I've seen that it's a good show, and I'm excited to meet 2 new comics. And that kind of wraps up my trip in Portland. It was... You know, I don't think I conveyed how dark things were getting mentally, but I also don't quite want to. You know, I don't know if I want to mentally go all the way back there and relive that. But the experience I had as a comedian was fantastic. I'm already trying to figure out how to get back. Already, it's been a year. But, you know, I have been trying to figure out how to get back. I want to do some more shows. I want to do the same shows that I did. And I really want to spend a full week there. I mean, it's a city that I can see myself... You know, I contemplated the idea of like, well, is this where I need to go? Is this where I want to move? And there was something, I think the energy I brought with that trailer and that week, I don't know if I can separate it. But I also used to think that same way about New York, and now I go back a couple times a year, and I tend to go back to New York when I need to recharge, which is not something most people say about New York, but that's how I feel about the city now. You know, I get to see good friends, I get to see my family, and I get to go do great shows, and I feel good about it. And I'm hoping with this next trip I'm lining up in the fall with Portland, I can do that. I can reclaim the city, and I can actually absorb the energy in a positive way, the way I want to. Because if you remember from last episode, there were a lot of positives. You know, I was able to channel this kindness when I was writing out the postcards. Todd Snyder popped up again, and someone that would become important later in the trip for me and later in my life for me. And, you know, I had these cool people from my past with Corey David and Chris Hudson showing up, Megan Otto showing up, Holly showing up, you know, like, so there were all these positives floating around me. And again, the negativity was just sort of seeping in and sort of taking over a bit too much. But overall, it was a really good week. And in the big picture of life, it was a very important week in that it was something I could look back on with my drinking and start listening to the voices and the alarms that are going off and saying, hey, you got to stop. We're coming up on the end of this thing. You're making yourself sick. Like, do better. Like, you're going to have to do better. And so, you know, in the moment, things can be dark and terrible, but hopefully later on you can look back at those moments and go, oh, that was a necessary evil to get me back into the light. And that's how I kind of feel about Portland, where the shows were fantastic. My personal experiences were dark, but they weren't dark because of the city. They were dark because I made them dark, because I was doing it to myself. So, and again, you can reach out to me if you want to talk about your drinking. You know, again, I don't have a drug issue. I knew enough about my drinking to know that if I even tried Coke, I would just, that'd be the end for me. But if you want to reach out and you're just kind of curious, you just want to chat, you want to have a more personal conversation about, you know, just what kind of got me to where I am now with my drinking, which today I'm 260 days sober. And if you had told me that, you know, and that's sort of also funny about this time last year, I know the exact date I quit drinking again in April. It was April 12th. And April 12th of this year, I'm headlining Dallas Comedy Club, and it was a great show. You know, I sold a lot of tickets for a Sunday at 8 p.m. in Texas. The comics before me all killed. You know, it was a great experience. So you can get there, and you can change your life. You know, you really can. And it's not too late to go out and chase those dreams. And, yeah, maybe I took a side quest. I took a side route but I'm still climbing the same mountain that I've been trying to climb for a long time, and I still can see the top. So anyway, that has been Wilaker, Chapter 11. When we come back for Chapter 12, we'll be in Bend, and then we have a pretty cool experience in Boise. So check back in, call your moms, and I'll see you next week.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.